There have been a number of inspirational sports movies over the years. One of my favorites is Cinderella Man. It's the true story of heavyweight boxer Jim Braddock. The boxer earned his nickname from his fairy tale-like rise from a poor local fighter to heavyweight champion of the world. Braddock had fought for the title in 1929 but lost a heartbreaking 15-round decision. That same year, the stock market crashed, and he went from title contender to one of millions of poor Americans trying to survive the Great Depression. Desperate to put food on the table, he grudgingly accepted government handouts and stood in bread lines. At one point, it got so bad he had to ask for money from friends. But his fortunes began to change in 1934. Intended to simply be a stepping stone in Corn Griffin's boxing career and 25 losses on his record, he upset the heavy favorite, knocking him out in the third round. He followed that up with another upset by defeating future light heavyweight champion John Henry Lewis. As a result, Jim Braddock was given a title fight with the mighty champion Max Barr. Considered nothing more than a journeyman fighter, Braddock was picked by Barr's team as an easy payday for the champion. But on June 13, 1935, at Madison Square Garden Bowl, the 10-1 underdog scored one of the greatest upsets in boxing history, a true rags to riches story. The backdrop of this story was the Great Depression, a dark and dreary time in our nation's history. Braddock survived the poverty and went on to experience earthly glory. The 7-year tribulation will be a time of even greater darkness and dreariness. But for those who find Christ, it will eventually lead to heavenly glory. Let's look at Revelation chapter 6, verse 5 through 8. When he opened the third seal, I heard the third living creature say, "Come." And I looked, and behold, a black horse, and its rider had a pair of scales in his hand. And I heard what seemed to be a voice in the midst of the 4 living creatures saying, "A quart of wheat for a denarius, and 3 quarts of barley for a denarius, and do not harm the oil and wine." And when he opened the 4th seal, I heard the voice of the 4th living creature say, "Come." And I looked, and behold, a pale horse, and its rider's name was Death, and Hades followed him. And they were given authority over 1/4 of the earth to kill with sword and with famine and with pestilence and by wild beasts of the earth. Today we're looking at the 3rd and 4th seal judgment, also known as the 3rd and 4th horsemen of the apocalypse. In the opening years of the tribulation, there will be a famine and poverty represented by the black horse, which will lead to economic inflation. The combination of this and war and some other things will lead to 1/4 of the world's population killed, which is represented by the pale horse. We're talking about the potential of over 1 billion people dying within the first couple years of the tribulation. While this may evoke sadness, the truth is God limits his wrath for sin on earth to 7 years. And as we will see later in the book, all the redeemed, including those who find Christ during the tribulation, will be ushered into God's glorious kingdom known as the millennial, which will include Christ reigning on earth 1,000 years. This chapter is a harsh reminder of the reality of the consequences of sin. But may it also remind us that God in his infinite mercy and grace will end the punishment and restore redeemed people to his kingdom. It will be the ultimate rags to riches story. May we be thankful that we have food to eat and that death only leads to real life. May we stay humbled before God that he has chosen to spare us from the price of sin and instead allows us to be his beloved children. Amen.